we just have to talk about what's going on with the M2 MacBook Pro rumors, because they're dropping faster than F-bombs on Peacemaker, and it's not even the escalation in quantity that concerns me, it's the utter conflict, the cage match between them. We've gone from 14-inch in the new design to 13-inch in the old one, from notch to touch bar, from later this fall to as soon as this spring, and all in the blink of an eye, which makes the kind of sense that only kind of does, because when Apple dropped the first batch of ultra-low power custom silicon Macs, the ones back in November of 2020, all three of them were still stuck on the same old designs. New silicon hotness inside, busted old boxes out. But since then, we've gotten two, arguably 2.5 complete redesigns in 2021. The 24-inch iMac and the ultra high performance 14 and 16-inch MacBook Pro. And now, some 18 months post M1 and almost 6 months post those high-end Pros, what nerd wouldn't want them to pull a Reese's peanut butter cup and just two great better together that new design with this next generation of Apple Silicon, which is exactly what Dylan DKT reported back in January, specifically the new 14-inch MacBook Pro enclosure with an even newer M2 Apple Silicon chipset, all coming sometime in the second half of 2022. But now, both randomly accurate Digitimes and just the stalwart Mac rumors are reporting something both better and far, far worse. Better in that we might see this updated entry-level MacBook Pro way earlier, as soon as the Apple event rumored for March 8th. And worse, as in the M2 might be the only thing that gets updated about the new entry-level. Which, yes, going M2, about damn time. But sticking with that old design, it just feels frozen in time. So could Apple do that? Would Apple do that? And either way, why? Well, this isn't the high-end 14 and 16-inch M1 Pro and M1 Max MacBook Pros, the ones that we just got back in October. It's the entry-level 13-inch M1, nothing, just plain M1 that we got back in 2020. And that entry level, it's just always been hella weird, going all the way back to when Phil Schiller first announced it in 2016, after announcing the then new 13 and 16-inch all Thunderbolt and Butterfly keyboard MacBook Pros. And he announced it as sort of a one less thing.
We're making a model of the 13-inch MacBook Pro with traditional function keys and 2 Thunderbolt ports. And we think that a lot of potential MacBook Air customers are going to be very excited about this product too.
Because back then, the MacBook Air hadn't gone Retina yet, even though 18 months earlier, Apple had introduced the Retina MacBook nothing. The 12-inch one with the super anemic Intel Y-series Core M chipset, the one that Apple's AX series just laughed at, single Thunderbolt port, and a price point that was well beyond the Air. In other words, premium portability, but at the expense of performance. And this was literally meant for people who wanted the opposite of that, a U-series Core i chipset, but not at all super high-end or high-priced. A MacBook Pro Air or MacBook Air Pro, so to speak. And then, oh so ironically, and for so many reasons, when it came time for Apple to ship their first M1 Macs, the ultra-low power M1 Macs, it was that 2 Thunderbolt chassis that Apple used for the entry-level MacBook Pro, with the butterfly keyboard swapped out for a new Magic Scissor Switch model, but with the touch bar swapped in for the function keys, because Apple just always be trolling. But it was still very much a MacBook Air Pro Air situation, the exact same M1 chipset, but with a bigger thermal envelope and a fan so that it could sustain heavy workloads for longer than 20 minutes. And that was all the M1 Pro we had, at least until almost another whole year, until Apple replaced the higher-end Intel models with the literal M1 Pro and M1 Max, and the new 14-inch and 16-inch designs back in October of last year, with more ports, more CPU, more memory and storage, and way more GPU. Now, I've got a whole entire video up diving the deep differences between the M1 Pro and Max and the M2, and I'll drop a link to that in the description below the like button. But TLDW, don't let the numbers fool you, because the M2 will have next generation, higher performance, higher efficiency CPU cores, slightly more and way more powerful graphics cores, better media engines, but it won't have anywhere nearly as many of any of them. So it'll work even better in even smaller enclosures, like the rumored M2 MacBook Air redesign that everyone is expecting now. especially at single core tasks, and yes, sustain even better in that same sized old 13-inch MacBook Pro enclosure. But it won't have anywhere nearly the multi-core performance of the M1 Pro or the M1 Max because entry-level and not high-end. But that also means it doesn't need the bigger, beefier new 14-inch design to sustain the performance or the bigger battery to keep sustaining it. Plus, if M2 follows the same formula as M1, it'll only have 2 USB and 2 Thunderbolt controllers, which wouldn't be enough for all the ports on the existing 14-inch enclosure, which means Apple would have to do a variant that drops one of the Thunderbolt ports and maybe the SD card and HDMI ports as well. And I mean, they'll have to do that eventually anyway. I know that, you know that, they know that, everybody knows that, because the current design is going on 6 years old and it doesn't have MagSafe and the touch bar is basically abandonware at this point. But for now, and only for now, it'll let them just kick that design can down the road at least another year while they're, working on the new iMac Pro, Mac Mini, and of course the next iPhone. And it'll still let them move the entry-level MacBook Pro forward while maintaining that differentiation, not only because no new design or newly reinstated ports, but no mini LED, no ProMotion up to 120 Hz adaptive refresh, which clears up just any vestigial confusion by making it wicked obvious it's much less a MacBook Pro Air and pretty much clearly a MacBook Air Pro at this point. And of course, with none of these new things, especially the new display, it'll help keep it on that old price point, which is pretty much the whole entire job of the entry level. And given how many truly new M-class Macs Apple still has to ship before their self-imposed this year deadline, I can absolutely see them just game theorying it exactly this way. And if you want to join them, help get out and push, maybe even change their collective minds one day, check out the algorithm, neural network, and machine learning courses on today's sponsor, Brilliant. Basically, everything that the next generation of silicon to software is going to be built on, but also math, science, and computer science, physics, quantum mechanics, cryptocurrency, and more. Because Brilliant is the online interactive STEM learning platform with a growing catalog of courses specifically crafted to help you learn concepts by working through them yourself in visual, hands-on ways. And I cannot stress this enough. I wish school had been more like this when I was going, because it would have been just way, way better in so many ways. For example, if you ever wanted to learn how to code, but were put off by the overly complicated traditional computer programming courses, well, Brilliant has actual, fun, interactive challenges that let you shift blocks of pseudocode around, receiving immediate feedback that gets results. You'll feel like you're just solving puzzles, but the whole time you'll be learning how algorithms work. And once you know that, coding becomes way less intimidating, way more accessible, and who knows, maybe you'll unlock the whole future of M5 or A20 or whatever Apple has coming our way next. Because here's the thing, everyone, absolutely everyone starts somewhere, and you can get started right now, today, for free. Just visit brilliant.org/Ritchie or click the link in the description, and the first 200 people will get 20% off Brilliant's annual premium subscription. Just click the button on the screen or go to brilliant.org/Ritchie. Clicking on that button really helps out the channel, and so does hitting up this playlist for way more on all the new Macs coming our way this year. So just hit up that playlist, and I'll see you in the next video.